Welcome back to Optimized Health.
Hey, Mandy.
Hello, Miss Laura. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I was talking before where I'm a little weathered today because I've been to the gym and hadn't had time to de-gym myself.
Yes.
So
and now we're videoing these, so it matters.
I know. I was like, I could at least throw some makeup on and look alive.
You look great. You look great.
So it's like, oh well, this is the real me. You take what you get.
That's right.
So we are on the last episode of our series with Nutrition World.
Yes, it's been great.
We started it with Mr. Jones. We're going to end it with Mr. Jones.
All right.
We feel honored.
So welcome back, Ed Jones. And you've never been in the studio with the ladies.
Ooh, this is sweet.
I know.
Three beautiful women. Two that are made up and one that's not.
Rude.
We feel honored that you came to be with us today, Ed, and we can't wait to hear and pick your brain on the role of weight. One of those hot topics that we hear in our clinic all the time. So we're going to dive right in. You need no introduction, but the owner, founder of Nutrition World, who we are very appreciative for in our clinic and align philosophically with Nutrition World. And so we're just thrilled to have you here today to talk to us about weight management, which is such a hot topic in today's world. And I hear it in my clinic all the time from women and men that come in that midlife. They're trying to manage their weight. And so tell us a little bit about your philosophy, your background with, your own personal experience with managing your weight throughout your lifetime.
I am more than happy to say that. Thank you very much. And yes, you are so correct. We align ourselves philosophically so well. And that's where we have 17 practitioners. And not all of those people I found really align with my philosophy. Not that they have to agree with it, but somewhere in the same avenue of that. And I know Optimize You is the closest to going down that road together as a partner. And I appreciate all that you do for us. I opened my store in 1979 and up until, and I don't know, maybe up until COVID, the number one question at Nutrition World was always, what do you have to lose weight? We went through a lot of different decades of fads. We went through the ephedra stage.
Oh, I remember that.
That was a very popular product that certainly did help people have less appetite, and it had a modest list of side effects. And for those few risky people, it was far too risky. But used intelligently, it was okay. It wasn't great. But it actually was a turning point financially for me. We did about 1984. We ran an ad that we gave away a 3-day supply of it was something Max, and it was ephedra, and I couldn't barely pay my bills at the time, and we sold so much of that it actually kept me in business. So
really,
I'm very kind of thankful for that. We in the 84, 85, 86, people didn't advertise what I did, so we ran a TV commercial. It was the first TV commercial ever I had done, and it really helped us immensely. And I do think there's a place for those kind of products, but again, people, the real reason supposedly was it could be turned into methamphetamines. That's the reason it was removed. It really wasn't the side effects. They just kind of talked about that because blood pressure could increase with it and you could be more hyper, as you know, Laura. But as far as where we are now, of course, we're in a whole different age and stage based on the new drugs that are out for weight loss, which have a place. There's no doubt for the people who are completely stuck. Their metabolic systems are not functioning the way they should. But what can we do about, number one, why are we having such an epidemic of 50% obesity in this country? And there's multiple reasons, but it goes down to me to how do we balance the physiology of our system? Just like you would a car with a lot of functions. You want the carburetor and the spark plugs and the fuel. They all have to interact together to get you to your destination. Well, now we have a country that is basically addicted to processed foods and to carbohydrates. And that has gone on basically from the stage of when we had the generation of fat is bad. And so everything in the grocery store that had fat, it was probably reduced by 80% and was replaced with carbohydrates. Well, that started a whole generation of massive addicts to carbohydrates. And because you can grow corn so cheaply and a few other foods, you can buy those things for $1 and kind of fill your belly. But the problem is it's changing the way insulin works and changing the way that even the intestines work and all of that. And I was a purist as far as a health food nut for decades. And I actually spoke about that just on a previous podcast an hour ago with Rev. And I was like, all drugs are bad. Eat all organic and take lots of nutrients and go to the gym and you will never be sick. Well, being almost 68 now, I've seen a lot. And we have almost 400 people a day at Nutrition World, thankfully. And even on our slower years, we had 100 to 200. So we've always seen a lot of people. And I see that's not the reality of aging. The body, this body's on loan to us. And it's not a whole lot different than a car that has a lot of miles, except the difference is cars can't fix themselves. And we do have that capacity. If we take care of ourselves, the body will fall apart, but generally 20 years later than it is right now. We have people at 50 that, are worse off than a lot of people back in my high school days that were 70 and 80. And we've done it to ourselves. There's no doubt. But I always felt like if you could just eat enough nutrient-dense foods and they were clean and they were organic, that life would take care of itself. And I completely now do not agree with that. And the people who are purist in my industry probably would not like me saying what I'm going to say. To me, the first thing I do when I sit down at any restaurant, anywhere, is I focus on macros. What are macros? They're the percentage of fat, protein, and carbs that will be in front of me on my plate. Why does that matter? Because that is the key component that will send all of the signals to your body as to how to process that food, whether it be processing it to energy, to muscle growth, or to fat. It doesn't matter to your body if it was completely grown organically or it was grown on soil that had heavy metals on it. It does not matter to your body's physiology of weight gain. So what do we do about that? Well, with Dr. Peter Attia and a lot of other research that's come out, my estimate on protein certainly has gone up, because I used to think in my purest days, too much protein is going to be hard on the kidneys. Too much meat's going to cause cancer. I don't agree with either of those anymore if the meat's relatively clean, organic, grown without chemicals like we do at Nutrition World or our farmers do. So I sit down and I want to get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every day. If a person only does that with their protein drink and foods, they will have probably a better system that will burn body fat. And because you can't fill your belly with a ton of protein and also a ton of everything else. There's only so much room. But this is what I do with every meal. I take olive oil with me in my car, and I do 2 tablespoons of olive oil with every lunch and every single supper that I have. Why? Because I want health from the olive oil, if it's good quality, like we sell Life Extensions at the Nutrition World. It's the strongest olive oil there is for the healthy components. But it slows down basically the glycemic index of foods, which is how fast does it turn to sugar, is immensely slowed down when you have some healthy fat with it. So my goal is to create the least rise in blood sugar, which then probably denotes the least rise in insulin. Laura knows all the physiology of this, but it tends to go hand in hand. And that's why I have chosen to be the guinea pig that I am to get a continuous glucose monitor, because I have, luckily I'm not overweight at all. I have about 10% body fat. I'm going to be 68 in a few months and still staying strong in the gym. But the continuous glucose monitor has really opened my eyes to things that I would never have known otherwise. And I've told about 15 clients about the continuous glucose monitor over the past 2 years. Before you guys got it. And they would just get it from their whoever. It has been life-changing to 15 out of 15.
It's interesting.
It is.
We did it.
Yeah, we have. Actually, when I joined Optimize You, I was using a continuous glucose monitor, and we had some date bars in the closet, and I ate one because, leaving work, hadn't eaten, and I texted Josh, I was like, don't eat the date bars. Because I saw what it did to my blood sugar, and I knew that spiking that multiple times a day was not good for my long-term health. But sometimes it's just that awareness of what certain foods do to our blood sugar, and I think that's what this provides for us. What has it shown you, or how has it helped you the most? Well, because I eat a carnivore diet, I eat a good amount of clean protein and also 2 protein drinks a day. It's the only way I can get to 180 grams of protein. And on my first protein drink of the day is my breakfast. I do 50 grams, which is 2 scoops
I put a little 5 grams of creatine and put a little bit of fiber, and that's in water. That's all I do. Go to the gym at about 4 in the morning, and then I will have organic cheese when I finish the gym, and when I get to the store, I have 25 more grams of protein. So there's 75 grams of protein.
Wow.
I can make 180 grams if I can get 75 by 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because then I've still got my lunch, I've got another drink and a supper and something else. Well, I noticed that first off, I have it's flatlined and nothing elevates it with all that. But one day, about 2 weeks ago, I never do this, but you asked me before we sat down here about eating and stuff. And I said, I always eat. But this one single day, I got running an hour behind. And I went to eat, and the food that normally is flatline went all the way to 200.
Because you were late?
Because I hadn't eaten. Because when you don't eat and you're used to eating, your insulin becomes so overly sensitized, and your body overreacts with insulin and blood sugar. The blood sugar shot straight up, and then the insulin had to come in to lower it because I was famished to a point. And I think. And I also know this, the stress of life can make cortisol go up, which then drags your blood sugar. I had a hard discussion with somebody, I'll just use those words, about 3 days ago. And I was running my normal numbers of about 90 all the time, 85 to 90. And within 30 minutes, I was up 45 points with no food. Stress causes this to go up. And also, I talk about my tequila drink all the time, which is, Portofino has it on their menu because I always preach the fact that wine and beer will destroy your health. There's just no doubt to my mind. I think it's better to live on Twinkies than wine and beer. And the reason is because of many reasons. Glyphosate, histamines, beer is made with moldy grains. There's no way that grain can stay not moldy the way that they store them. You're destroying your body with those two things. So you want to get a buzz, then you need to use tequila because it's agave. It doesn't have the glyphosate. It doesn't have the things that histamines. And if you mix it with lemon, it won't work with lime, then you will not have a hangover. You will process it very well. Acetaldehyde is a byproduct of alcohol that causes most hangovers and probably causes the cancer and causes all of the other bad things. Well, now that I've got this continuous glucose monitor, I could not wait. I actually dreaded trying it because I was so fearful of results.
Turn it around.
And I thought, if this thing jumps 20 points, I'm doomed. It jumped 2 points every time I drink it. It's either 0 to 2, and that's drinking 4 shots. In my drink. I always drink 4 shots every night, 7 days a week.
Ed,
wow.
You're a beast.
And
I'd be falling out.
So, but it makes me feel good, and it doesn't hurt me for far as I can tell. It isn't super healthy. Don't think I'm making this a health food drink, but it showed me what it does. I will not drink a beer as a guinea pig because I'm just not going to put that in my body. But I would love to see what that beer would do to me. And so I know that if I keep my protein high and my healthy fat high, it gives me room to eat mostly what I want, except rice. Rice is my demon, and rice has been the one single food that when I prepare for this bodybuilding contest and I'm going to carb up, I know now what to carb up with. It will be rice, white rice.
Now, have you ever tried the trick leaving it in the refrigerator for 24 hours and then eating it?
Nope, but I'm going to do that.
Please try that and get back with me because... There have been, and we tested it at home with our continuous glucose monitors, and it did not spike our glucose 24 hours chilled.
Interesting.
So,
Isn't there a certain amount of time that if it's in the refrigerator, it starts to mold?
It doesn't take too long.
Yeah, I think so.
But 24, you're fine.
Okay.
48, I would not eat it.
Okay.
We tried the same experiment with potatoes. It did not work.
Okay.
So the rice did, interestingly enough.
The white potatoes are what spiked mine. The rice did not, but the white potatoes did. And I had the same thing with stress. I had a very stressful day one day at work, and then my monitor showed in the middle of the night, I'm asleep, and I spiked. And I thought, was I having a bad dream? Like that I didn't remember or something? But it spiked high. And I thought, what in the world? But I had a challenging day the day before. And I thought, man, that is interesting.
And that's most likely, would you agree, Ed, your cortisol spiking during the night will cause that to happen as well. And so we see a lot of cortisol spikes, especially in this middle age range when we see hormones changing as well. So definitely could have correlated with that.
Well, I'm looking at mine right now because I actually took today at lunch, I never I'm not weak. I have such discipline, but I eat at Southern Star, and they have this one time every few weeks. They have this sweet potato. They act like it's a vegetable, but it has this top on it. It's really a dessert.
It has cinnamon and
you can see what it did, which mine never does.
It looks great still. You're still in range.
I'm in range.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in range. I want to be perfect.
I know.
And this was not perfect. This was 155. That's the third worst I've had in 2 weeks.
Oh
so
my gosh.
I'm not still going to eat it again.
Laura, he doesn't want to be normal.
You know what I learned with that? Just don't scan it. If you know it's going to spike, just I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding.
I love the accountability of this.
I do too. I do too.
And you guys, what does it take for a person to get one from you if they just walked in off the street? How does that process work?
Well, we like to see them and talk to them, so we'll have a consult with them, and then we're glad to help them with a prescription. We like to have someone also, we've used Adam in your store to help kind of guide them through that process so they can interpret the data. So we like to do it in conjunction with a health coach because then you've got someone that can help you understand what that data means.
Yes.
It's very easy to become obsessed with the numbers.
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm not going to do that, but we could. That's why they need coaching. They do.
Yes.
Because if you don't have anyone to talk to about it, you can get wrapped up in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There is no doubt about it. Now, I am taking Life Seasons glucose capsules, and I'm going to experiment to see if it keeps my higher numbers from being higher. I don't know. But the only other food that caused me grief at this point is we have this lady, and she's got like 5 young kids. She homeschools all of them, and she makes this sourdough bread for us every week. And though she makes 2 other things, she makes sourdough biscuits, and she makes these sourdough cinnamon rolls. The cinnamon rolls are not bigger than 2 of these, and it took me to almost 200.
Wow.
Really?
I ate her biscuit, which is about this big, 3 times bigger, on past Sunday, and it was fine. I went to 140. So, and the cinnamon roll is the best quality ingredients, but it showed me again the purity of the ingredients. The body could care less about the purity as far as insulin and blood sugar. So back to weight control. The key to weight control is not having big spikes and filling your belly with protein and fat first. And then if you want some carbs, you're not going to have room for a lot. And everybody says, before they started, I crave carbs all the time. It's if you eat like I do, your craving will be 90% less. I barely gave in today at lunch. I only had 3 tablespoons of that sweet potato, but I could have been fine without it. But I remember the days when that wouldn't have been true. I would have dreamed about it. So
It
raise
becomes an
protein.
obsession sometimes.
Raise protein, healthy fat. What are healthy fats? Avocados, olive oil. I preach constantly about seed oils being the worst offender of health, causes cardiovascular damage, cognitive decline. What are seed oils? They are sunflower, canola, vegetable oils found in all processed foods. And here was the deal in my first 35 years. We demonized processed food because the sugar is killing us. It wasn't the sugar. The sugar was way secondary. It was the seed oils that were damaging us. Then you add sugar on top. Well, yes, it became more addictive because seed oils are addictive too. But the seed oils last 6 years in the body. The sugar lasts 4 hours. So it takes 6 years to get seed oils out if you have eaten seed oils a lot. And another one of the big mistakes that I love making mistakes and then learning and then changing, but we used to sell seed oils as a health food product because it said vegetable oil and expeller pressed and cold pressed. It doesn't matter. You press a seed, you're going to have linoleic acid, which is part of a fatty acid compound that damages the body. So I'm about 90% less seed oils than I've ever been. I only eat 1 salad a week that has some at a restaurant. Other than that, I don't touch seed oils.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When we think about like fatty acids, linoleic acid, what would you recommend for supplement-wise, like in the omega-3 category? So when you're thinking omega-3s to omega-6, have you had that ratio tested on yourself?
I have.
Can you speak to that just a little bit? Because omega-3s, I'm a big fan of. I recommend those for pretty much all my patients. They're part of your core 4. We have that posted in my office, and I've taken them regularly myself for years. But can you just speak to that a little bit? Because I think that's great knowledge. Just it's easy implementation that people can do on a daily basis.
Easy, 2 pills a day. I like a brand called Vital Planet because it's the strongest. But here's the deal. we have all these fatty acids, and one thing we can do, if we can take enough of the healthy fatty acids, omega-3 and say olive oil, it tends to displace some of the other unhealthier ones instead of them going straight in. If you have enough healthy, there's just the window not open wide enough for some of the other unhealthy, so it kind of slips by and we do better. But when we were the healthiest country, or in all animal studies, if we have a 2-to-1 ratio of what we call omega-3 to omega-6, why don't we want omega-6? One is it usually from kind of seed oils, but it doesn't have to be. But it goes down a pathway that produces what we call arachidonic acid. Well, arachidonic acid is why we have chronic inflammation. When you have pain, the body is producing it to protect you, but it doesn't always do it right, but it has to do it through a mechanism called arachidonic acid. When you have a lot of omega-6, it produces a lot more of that. When you have less, it produces less of that. So, well, when we were healthy, we had about 2 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. The American public that's tested now is 20 to 40 to 1, so 20 to 40 times higher on omega-6, because everything you eat has omega-6 if you're eating any processed foods. Even healthy flax seeds and things, they're full of omega-6. So I just don't do those anymore. I'm doing omega-3s and other fats like I spoke about.
I think that's such a great point because, we have recovery services that help to lower inflammation. You hear and see all over social media about how to lower your inflammation using cold plunge, red light. But if you aren't doing those basic things like getting your protein in, looking at your seed oils, taking your basic supplementation, then really, you aren't doing the easier things. You're choosing the harder route. Would you agree with that?
I would. And we as a country like magic pills too.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you
fast, easy, simple.
If you pop ibuprofen 2 or 3 times a day, you will probably feel less pain, but you're digging holes in your intestinal tract. There's no doubt. And you actually are destroying the cartilage within our body. Study after study has shown that it decreases pain, but at a cost. And that cost is it weakens the cartilage. So it's actually digging a grave for you down the road to have more pain because you're destroying the part of the body that needs to not be destroyed.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about exercise. Tell me what do you think over the years, looking back, what has been the most impactful exercise for you to do for longevity, for health, for just where you are today to get you there?
Well, again, I think anyone who's done something for 45 years, if you're open-minded, and you have what we call a beginner's mind. Now, I love having a beginner's mind, even at my age. You see things that, of course, we all say, I wish we'd known this back then, but that's not the way life works. The life works that we're in a curriculum of the world and life, and we learn by making mistakes. And I used to think that being aerobically fit was the key. Just like eating totally organic is the key. Now, please don't get me wrong. Both of those are beneficial. Sure. But they're not the metrics for longevity. The metrics for early mortality are based on 2 things. The 2 numbers that count more than any one thing, including your cholesterol, including your blood pressure, almost, including many things, is strength and VO2 max. Those are the 2 things, which is VO2 max is lung capacity and the fitness level in your lungs. But really, strength is what will preserve you through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. If you have very little strength and something happens to you, a car wreck, an illness, a COVID, a flu, you don't have any residual abilities. So whatever little you had is disappearing as that sickness is going on. And then the rehabilitation time when you're older, some people never rehabilitate. They never get back to that exercise because they just can't make it happen. Well, if you got a strong body, you're going to reduce 50%, but you still got plenty left to make the life happen. So to me, weight training is key. 4 times a week, weight training in the gym or somewhere where you're not going to get hurt. Right next door to you is Mackie at Max Fitness. He does one-on-one personal training. He's been with me 19 or 20 years. Wow. But weight training I have seen, if you visually judge somebody by just looking at them, I've seen tens of thousands of people over my career. And if you asked me what I had for lunch yesterday, I probably in 5 minutes could tell you, but not in 5. It would take 5 minutes. I remember the stories of people's health like it was yesterday, even if it was 5 years ago, because I love connecting the dots of why did Marilyn do so well as she aged when Betty did so poorly. And I knew their blood work. I knew their foods. I knew their activity. I knew a little about personal lives. And sometimes it's very obvious that the women, especially somewhat, and the men who only did aerobic training, they aged. They did not do as well as the years went on. Mm-hmm. If they got sickly, then they didn't recover as well. Mm-hmm. The people who did strength training did better, and the people who did both did the best. So I do, 20 minutes of cardio every day, and I do weight training for the rest of the time, which is a little bit more than I should, but I just love the weight training, and it is my medicine for my brain. There's no doubt.
Have you noticed your Aura Ring does VO2 max now?
No.
On the upgrade? Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes.
When did that start?
I'm telling you, I looked at it today. Now, I got a new one because mine pooed all the way out.
Well, mine's still this newest generation.
Is it the 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's a VO2 max.
So how does it measure VO2 max?
Yes.
I have no clue. I have no clue how it measures it.
Yeah.
All I know is it's on my app now. And it told me that I'm 3 years younger than my biological age.
Well, then buy 5 of those, right?
Listen, right? I am going down the right path.
Market for those all the way, right?
But it does. It started tracking my VO2 max.
Well, mine's not showing an update.
Uh-oh. Ed.
I have the 4. If I don't, it'll be
I'll
there
show it
tomorrow.
to
I know. You may have just sold me.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'll show it to you on my app. But I was like, oh my gosh, how does it measure that? Because it's not on my face, obviously.
No.
It's got to be blood oxygenation, maybe.
I don't care. I still want to know.
He said, I don't care.
Yeah, I need to know that too.
It does. I'll show it to you when we're done.
Yeah,
because I'll have to dig it out of my purse and nobody wants to watch me.
Well, that was my
that.
next question for Ed. Have you measured your VO2 max?
It's funny you say that. I asked Adam this morning, where can I go and really get it measured? I don't know of a place in Chattanooga. Do you?
I think there is maybe in Southern University. They have
I bet you're right.
They have the I don't know the name of it, but they have an exercise performance lab.
And they do it in there.
In fact, they may have one at UTC now too. But I do know. I believe there's some coming to Chattanooga.
Yeah, I think
is
so
the word
too.
on the street,
Okay.
So I think it's coming.
Yeah.
I would like to measure mine. My husband had a horrible mountain bike accident last year, and really it was his lung capacity that really helped him heal well.
Really?
Yes. I mean, he broke 11 ribs, so punctured a lung, but he was able to use the incentive spirometer, which we've used in healthcare for years, and get it halfway up. I think that was like at 1,500, and you can go to 4,000. And so we were playing with it at our house and practicing, all summer long last summer. My kids were using one. I was using one. And my lung capacity was not as great as his. But thankfully, because he had that, I think he recovered pretty well. And so it really was telling to us after you're going through a trauma that, recovery is so dependent upon your health going into that trauma. And we never know when that is going to strike. So that was super compelling to me to try to work on that.
Well, graceful aging is what I'm about. And as I actually just spoke on the previous podcast, I'm more about I'm not about lifespan. I'm about health span. And I've come to peace a lot with the aging of my body, that I really believe that everything I have is on loan to me. My business, my body, this. I mean, I saw the article in Gene Hackman this morning talking about how he hated to go out because he looked old. And I'm never going to be there. Yes, I love looking fit. I love dressing nice. I love being where I am at my age. But I'm not going to be there another 10 years or 20. It just won't. I have to learn to adapt to whatever comes my way. The greatest lesson of my life was the 3.5 years that I had massive hip pain. And it started with modest and it went to massive. I got to a point where I was on a cane, and then I was on a walker at home always. I could not function in the house. And it was funny because 3 different sets of x-rays and MRIs did not show my hip was that bad. And I go to Dr. Higgins based on Josh. Thank you, Josh, very much, as always.
We like Dr. Higgins.
And he took x-rays standing up. All the rest were lying down. When he did, he said, how are you walking? You're both your hips are not gone. They're completely shot. And he said, I said, can I do both at the same time? He said, yeah. But what I'm saying is the pain that I endured for 3.5 years helped me to come to a place of peace that I rent this body. That, yes, it's hurting like hell, and it's okay. It's okay. I can still do some things. I used to be able to do 10,000 things. Now I can do 3,000 things. But now I've been given a second lease of life. I squatted this morning, the heaviest I've squatted, because it was 2 years ago, April, when I had double hip replacement.
Was it really?
Yeah, 2 years ago, April. And I'm still so weak, though. I squatted 4 sets of 5 for 115. and there was no way I could squat off the toilet the first 3 or 4 months. So I am happy. If I could just get to 135, I'll be fine. And my butt looks damn good.
Well, there it is.
There it is.
I feel you. I don't want mine dragging the ground, so there's that.
We're definitely fighting against that, aren't we?
I know, right?
Not you, me. I'm speaking for myself. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about diet, supplementation, exercise, macros, CGMs. What about sleep? Tell me how your sleep has affected your blood sugar. Have you noticed any correlation there?
First off, sleep has been my demon. If I had to say one single thing I've struggled with for 35 years, it has been insomnia. Once my daughter was born, I became hyper vigilant, and so a leaf falling outside, I would listen to it and wake up, and then I couldn't go back to sleep. So I've tried every single remedy that you ever could imagine. And a lot of the years it was guesswork, because I've learned with my R ring, this is my third one, that it's hard to be a good judge of how much REM and deep you got. You think you have and you didn't. And some nights, as you know, you think you didn't do too well, and all of a sudden it's pretty damn good. But it also showed me which supplements are working and which ones aren't. And there's very few that work for me. Very few. The sleep powder by U Theory has been one that I used for probably 2 or 3 years. I now really am diligent about no blue light past 4 o'clock. I set my iPhone so there's no blue light. I don't watch TV. I haven't watched it in about 7 years, so I don't worry about that. And I don't use my iPad at night. So that has helped me some. I turn my router off every night now because it is a cell phone. It was a cell tower inside your house. The calcium voltage gated channels that have to do, EMF activates that system, which then causes calcium to be activated within the brain, and activated molecules in the brain are not what we want at night. And magnesium's the only thing that tends to lessen that because it counters some of that calcium hyperactivity. But EMFs, that's just why EMFs are harmful, because they make the calcium go into the cells of the brain. It passes the brain barrier. So that's why we need to be on magnesium 300 to 600 milligrams a day. But EMFs is staying away from it at night. I don't worry in the day because we live our life and we have to be busy and think. I will call it a sleep sanctuary. We need to create a sleep sanctuary at night so you can regain some balance. I do miss my Alexa, but it's okay. I've adapted to that.
You just made all kinds of people's Alexas go off.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
They're
right.
like, what do you need?
That's funny.
I need sleep, Alexa. Can you make that happen?
I know, right? Right.
And my number one remedy, or number one technique to help the REM and deep and help everything from cognitive function to heart health to gum health, is taping your mouth at night. It's the only way you're going to prevent the mouth breathing. And when you mouth breathe, you change the ratio of carbon dioxide to oxygen. You think that we want more oxygen. No, you don't. Carbon dioxide is the relaxant for the parasympathetic system. And you want oxygen if you're running, you're working out. But during the other times, we need to learn slow breathing. Eight times a minute is ideal. There's a physician named Dr. Buteyko. He was a Russian physician who actually treated asthma by teaching people this Buteyko method of breathing. And that method is that you train yourself what he called air hunger. Instead of fasting with food, you fast for air. And what you do, if you ever get upset, you get nervous, you get wired, or at night, I use this now at night, and your mind's running on, you make yourself breathe 8 times a minute, and you have air hunger, like you want to go, that's air hunger because you're hunger for it. Well, don't give in. You make yourself for 10 minutes be air hunger, you'll go back to sleep because you are going to calm yourself with carbon dioxide, which then calms the whole system. It's a neat little trick.
That is.
But we sell mouth tape, or you can buy some off Amazon. And I've used mouth tape now I've been divorced 11 years and 6 months and 3 weeks and 2 days. And I have been using mouth tape for years before that.
I thought, honestly, that we just had mouth tape in our house because Rob's like, all right, this is a Mandy timeout. Put that on your mouth. I'm going to need a Mandy timeout.
He needs to sleep, right?
Well, I'm afraid to say you would need duct tape. Not mouth tape.
That was pretty good.
Not wrong.
That's pretty good, Ed.
Not wrong. Good thing they call in different covers.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've talked about, we talk about these pillars all the time in our clinic because those are really the foundations of your hormone health too. Your stress, your sleep, your diet, your supplementation, your exercise. And really, that's for your health span. You know, that's what we're going to always go back to, is that lifestyle piece. And then looking beyond that to add, you know, hormones if needed, or other supplements if needed. Is there anything else you want to kind of tell us today about weight? Any supplementation? Like, I know I recently saw on social media, you were talking about the GLP-1s and given some options for people that maybe don't need a GLP-1 yet. You know, maybe they just need to, first of all, work on the lifestyle piece, but then maybe there's some other supplements that might help them. Can you touch on that just a little bit?
Well, I think we go back to, why do the drugs work? And the drugs work on a mechanism called insulin, and we have become so insulin resistant in this country due to our habits. You know, I love looking at the 1950s, 60s, and some in 70s of high school students, and even people at like family get-togethers, and you rarely saw somebody that was called obese. There might have been one out of the whole group, and now it's, you know, 40, 50%. So the insulin, metabolically dysfunctional is one word. Insulin resistant is another word. So to maximize that insulin, because the insulin's first job is store food for later. When you have too much of it, it thinks a famine is coming, so it's going to store food because you're still in the jungle to your metabolic system. So the key to aging gracefully and to having low body fat is to maintaining lower levels of insulin and then doing some right things. But the drugs do that. They do it artificially. I am somewhat concerned of long-term usage, but I'm a big fan of short-term use of drugs. And people they get stuck in certain patterns that mentally they can't get out of. And I think even with sleeping pills, 3 to 5 days of sleeping pills can break a pattern of terrible insomnia and create a new pattern. So, but Anchormansia, which is the only probiotic that actually works on that platform of the same mechanism that Ozempic and those kind of drugs work on, is certainly not as potent as a drug by any means. But for those who don't want to go that route, then I would be doing Anchormansia. I would be doing the macros with 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, healthy fat. And now when I talk about, and I didn't say this earlier, I do 60 to 70 carbs Monday through Saturday noon. If I do this 7 days a week, it quits working as well. I have found very clearly that I need 150 to 200 grams of protein on Sunday, maybe Saturday night leading into Sunday, because I believe that the insulin starts to becoming a little bit confused when you do it too low. And too low of carbs will create, the liver has to make some glucose, so it makes it by raising cortisol, and then that is devastating. One of the harshest drugs on us is long-term cortisone, prednisones. Well, that's what your body makes when you make too much cortisol, and poor sleep does that. So we know that's another avenue of gaining weight when you have too much cortisol. So all those, put those pieces together, and it's actually not that hard. And the fact that you can go eat Mexican on Sunday or eat whatever you want, kind of, it really makes life nice. I have to force myself on Sundays now because I feel 80% of the time I feel like I'm 32 years old. Wow. And then 20% of the time I feel like I'm 90. But that's just due to whatever. But I'll take the 80-20 rule.
Right. Absolutely.
And also, I have to brag about the fact that before my hips had about 3.5 years, I really had chronic pain for 20 years at least. I had the normal, my elbows hurting, my neck's hurting. Oh, now my knees hurting, you know, my ankles hurting. And I really feel that, again, it goes back to oxalates. I talk about oxalates, which are found in healthy foods. I doomed myself by eating too much spinach, too many almonds, too much rich chocolate, the healthy chocolate, some of the kale, some raspberries. I did this every day for.
It sounds very healthy.
40. It's nutritious, and there's a difference between nutritious and healthy. Not everybody has oxalate issues, but when I first read the book Toxic Superfoods by Sally somebody, and I did a podcast with her, and she's fabulous. I went downstairs to our lab and had a blood tested because Marlene had just gotten a blood test. It's not an accurate blood test because sometimes you dump oxalates and sometimes you don't. If you're not dumping, you're going to show 0. Mine was off the chart. And for me to have off the chart oxalates, it just rang a bell on me. This is why my hips are gone.
Wow.
This is why my hips are gone. And you go, if you want to know if you have oxalate damage or issues, all you do is eat no oxalates for 3 weeks, and you will feel amazingly better, or you will feel like you need a wheelchair. Either of those will tell you, because if you dump oxalates, which are going to come out, they're pieces of glass. They can't dissolve. They will come out, and they can come out in boils on your skin, tartar in your teeth, eye inflammation, pain like you've never had before. And then when you get done, you're like a super person. It may take 6 months. It may take a year. But by then you are going to fix yourself. If not, you're just going to keep falling apart. This is why people say, I don't understand. I had a hip replacement 2 years ago. Now I got to do a knee replacement. Now I got to do a shoulder replacement. What's going on? I think it's oxalates.
What am I not eating? You're freaking me out.
I know. I'm like, ooh, I have maybe
seriously.
3 out of the 5.
I know, that's
daily.
what I'm thinking.
Well, if you have an iPhone, there's an app called OxyPure, OXIPUR. It's free.
Okay.
You download it and you start looking up, because we really, like, one serving of spinach is 600 milligrams of oxalates. We shouldn't have more than 150 total. I was eating that, plus all those other things, for decades. And there's a product we sell called OxyGuard. You just take 4 pills a day, and it helps it to get out some. There's no other magic formulas, so you just do
Now
OxyGuard.
I'm just curious.
Well, you should be.
Like, I just want to say, like, how long?
It will take 2 weeks for you to be absolutely sure that you have an oxalate issue
Anybody
if
do anything
you
for 2
are
weeks.
truly not eating any. Now, and it's not that hard. There's plenty of foods that don't have oxalates.
It's just changing your patterns.
It's just,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And,
Now I'm
being
curious.
aware of what those are, you know?
And if 2 weeks you feel the same, you don't have an oxalate
wouldn't-
issue right
right.
now. Maybe in
Right.
10 years you will, but right now you don't. Go ahead and eat what you want to eat with oxalates anyway.
I'm doing it
Yeah.
because I'm curious.
OxyPure, OXIPUR. You got to look up your foods.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but
Roger
no, no meats have any at all. Dairy doesn't have any at all.
Okay.
You know, I eat cheeses. I mean, my diet's really a carnivore with.
Mine really
I
is
eat
too.
broccoli every single day.
I can't eat broccoli.
Why?
Gives me gas.
Wah, wah,
Rob
wah.
doesn't want, but then my husband doesn't want to live with me.
This is
or not
old. This
cooked.
is old news for our
Doesn't matter.
podcast. If
Yeah.
you've listened for a bit.
Doesn't matter.
Well, then that's another sign of another problem.
Oh, Lord.
Oh.
That's probably in a laundry list.
So we'll do that on another
the list.
podcast. Yeah.
Well, this has been super informative.
Yeah.
We feel honored you would spend your time with us today, Ed. Give us now just, in 20 words or less, Ed's wisdom across the board.
Wow.
Oh, God, no pressure.
I know.
Better make it good.
You can make it 30 words if you need to.
Well, one is
Gonna count 'em.
I really feel that the thing that I have encompassed in my life in the past, I've been working on this for decades, but really in the past 5 to 10 years, is finding a place for solitude. And solitude doesn't mean you're changing your entertainment. It doesn't mean I'm going to sit in a room by myself and then I'm going to look on my phone, or even I'm going to read a book. Solitude is learning who you really are and listening. And that is a skill that we have lost. And I've lost it many times in my life because we want to grab something really fast. And to be truly contented in life, we have to quit chasing something and chasing everything. And to do that, you have to be your own best friend. And very few of us have found the ability to do that. Because I don't care what you eat and what you do and how much you exercise. If we're chasing life, you're going to be worn down at a point, and you can't, and especially when you can't chase anymore. And it's just not it's a sad ending. It's a Gene Hackman ending to me.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
And I speak a lot about the fact that the ego is afraid of dying and the soul is not. And so going into more of a place of solitude is the only method I've seen that can reveal that shadowing of the soul, because the ego is going to chatter all day long. And we have to learn to appreciate the chatter but not respond to it. Really and truly. I mean, I do IV ketamine every other week. I've done almost 90. And ketamine in an IV form silences your ego. And it's the weirdest thing on earth, the first 10 that I did.
Oh, I'm certain.
Because it scares you to shit. Because what we think we are is this voice we hear inside. And what that is truly not us. The voice behind the voice is who we are. And you have to silence the ego's voice to hear the solitude voice. So do it. There's plenty of methods. I love a app called Insight Timer. Insight Timer is a meditative app. And there's a lady on there named Sarah Blondin. I've listened to her for years, and there's about 50 of her little recordings. And it's really going back to that solitude place. So whatever method works for people, it requires the same practice it requires to go to the gym. So it isn't, once a week for 10 minutes, I'm going to not pick up my phone. Well, that's a start, but it's going to take more than that. So to me, it's not even about nutrition. It's about living a joyful, contented life as we age.
There it is right there. A joyful, contented life as we age. And, all of these things that we do, we have to say to what end? And it's the end to make an impact in the life of another, which you have done in the lives of many. So thank you for all the work that you've done and the work that you continue to do with us and with the community.
Well, and you are such a wealth of information, and you are a great listener. And that's the other skill that has been lost in this society, especially in the professional levels, because it's all about business. I never go a week without hearing your name at least 2 to 3 times. So thank you for all you do. And Josh.
Thank you.
All right.
Until next time.
Next time.